Let's bring in Haiyan Wang. She's managing partner at the China-India Institute. So a lot to get to here, but we see this everywhere. Really, what has been the global impact of China opening up to the world?
I think that China opening up to the world is an unprecedented in the history. It brought immense benefits to China as well as to the world economy. Let's just look at the, say, last 15 years. In every dimension, whether it's trade, whether it's investment, whether it's people flow, and the impact on the global economy is immense. For example, in trade, China today imports about 10% accounts for about 10% of the total world's imports, as compared to just 2% about 15 years ago. In terms of foreign direct investment into China, and from barely nothing at the dawn of China's opening up to now accumulating FDI stock in China about 1.4 trillion. And increasingly, China is no longer just a recipient of a capital, but an outbound investor. Outbound direct investment already up to about 1.3 trillion, and people flow again. Some hundreds of millions of Chinese traveling abroad and spending $300 billion a year. So when an economy opens up, trade flow, data flow, technology flow, know-how flow, it really significantly helps China to develop. Now, China, as the second largest economy, is shifting more towards domestic consumption-driven economy. That again becomes a mega market, a mega growth story for all of the businesses outside of China. So, when we look at all of the development of economies, no economy is like China. 5 stories rolled into one: mega market, hub of manufacturing, platform for innovation, and springboards for fierce competition and increasingly a source of capital. So such forces combined are transformational.
So that being said, are there any challenges ahead as China continues to move forward?
Certainly. I could see several. One is that as Chinese businesses become more competitive, Chinese businesses take up market share both within China and outside China from existing incumbents. And that creates some threats to those who have been successful in the business world, and suddenly they have to face this fierce competition from China. That's one. 2, globalization tends to also benefit those with skills and with those with capital, and to some extent make the income disparity deeper. And that could feed into the anxieties over globalization. And politicians can then, feed upon those anxieties and tap into those, and populism, and claim that China's rise is a threat, that China's power could become a hegemon. So on that front, I think that the Chinese government is doing a great job of making the economies, making our opening up and reform more transparent, so that it is clearer that China's rise is beneficial to China, to Asia, also to the world.
And, very quickly, just a few seconds left, what does the future hold for the free trade agreements that we're seeing being talked about constantly? And, we see Shenzhen as an example.
Sure.
But, these free trade economic zones.
Yes.
They're coming more and more. Are they working?
I think that for China certainly, already China has 15 free trade agreements in place, another dozen under negotiation, about 11 that is being studied of its feasibility. So certainly free trade agreement helps to remove trade barriers and help to promote investments, help to promote economic integration. I think that's a win-win. In terms of free trade zones, China has already built 11 of these free trade zones. Essentially, within those zones, foreign companies can access China's market as almost like a Chinese companies enjoying low tax, enjoying low regulations, enjoying, for example, free duty warehousing, so that they can sell to the Chinese consumers. And it is absolutely working out as a great, not only an experiment for China's further opening up, but to some extent as a paradise for foreign companies wanting to access Chinese market. We could see that developing even more.
All right, Haiyan Wang, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.